Hey everyone, this is Chris. Welcome back to the channel, and this is your daily Uncut news. So it looks like Apple is slowing down, and this is one of the key indicators that we've been talking about. I've been telling you guys about this stuff, and if you want to get good at the market, you got to know what to look for and what it means. So remember I was saying that for the market PE to go down, right? You need the price of stocks to go down or earnings of companies to go up. And one of the key indicators is Apple. And the question I asked you guys is, hey, is Apple going to be selling a whole bunch of phones? Because if that is the case, then that means things aren't as bad as we thought. However, this was just reported that Apple is essentially, they thought there might be increased demand of phones, but it turns out that there's not. And you can read the headlines here. Apple digits iPhone production increase after demand falters, meaning that just not the demand's not there. One of the things that's going on, as I'm sure you guys know, we've been talking about it, is that there's a slowdown in China. And if there's an economic slowdown in China, then they're not going to be buying phones. And this also would reflect Tesla as well. So, all those Tesla bulls out there, it's like they don't read the news. They don't understand it. If there's a slowdown in China and like a whole bunch of their sales, be it iPhone, be it Tesla, any sort of company that sells products in China, if there's a slowdown there, right, there's no one to sell to, and it's hard to make money. I want you guys to learn to, follow this stuff. And you can see here, there was a prediction that the handphone market, right, the cell phone market or smartphone market, however you want to call it, is going to decline 6.5% this year. So we'll see what's going to go on the next year. But again, Apple is slowing down their production. And then when they announced it, then all of the companies that were related to Apple iPhone production, right, your chip makers and things like that, in Asia started to drop. And I think there was one of the companies here in Korea was like LG, dropped like 10%. And this is the kind of stuff you want to look for. So, we'll see if other companies that report the same kind of stuff, be it your NVIDIA's, things like that, when they say, hey, things are slowing down. And it makes it tough to be bullish on the market when companies are saying, hey, we're just not selling that much stuff. I'm sure you guys know this. The dollar keeps rallying. The dollar is strong. And one of the things that we did, we came to Korea because the dollar's really, really strong. And it's kind of funny because I keep smiling because it's like, oh my God, this is like crazy. The levels they keep saying is like the highest since 2008, 2009. You keep seeing that all over the news. The other thing that's going on as well, we just talked about this one yesterday, was that Nord Stream leak. Remember, there was like 3 leaks, and there are explosions in 3 different places as well. And now Europe is saying that, this is probably deliberate. I don't know who did it. I don't have any evidence. And we've had some interesting discussions in the comments. Love to you guys to hear your thoughts on this one. It could be Russia. Who knows? And some people say, why would they self-do it? And other people say, how could they even do it? Because it's so deep. I don't have the answer to this kind of stuff. I'm just not privy to that information. But I do know there's a leak, and I do know that winter is coming. So this is a real thing. Also, too, if you take a look at this, the stocks in Asia have been selling off. I mean, everyone's just pulling their money out of the market at the moment, and they're retreating to the dollar. And it's just a common theme. I've been telling you guys the last couple of weeks, and it's real. The other thing is too is when you see these reports of the yuan going down, it just, people don't have any faith. And one of the things I keep wondering, and I just state this because again, we just don't know. But how bad is the real estate crash and the whole Evergrande situation going to be in China? The contagion from there and also UK could spread. We just don't know. I mean, these are the kind of things you look back 10 years from now, and you're like, oh, it was so obvious that China was going to crash the market. Oh, it was so obvious that UK was going to crash the market, right? I mean, we heard the news, but you don't know until it happens. It's just something you're thinking about. It's, looks like bad, but you just don't know until it happens. And this is sort of the thing where I always, tell you guys that, in the short term, the markets are like a voting machine. Oh, I like that. Oh, I like that. I like that. But in the long term, the markets are a weighing machine, right? Things trade ultimately what they're worth, and sort of, things level out and come to fair value. Thailand is also raising rates. You're going to see this in multiple countries. And what's the deal with raising rates? What's the big deal with that? I'm sure you guys know this already. We talk about it every day with the Fed, but basically it slows growth, right? Because when the money's free and the money's flowing, everyone's borrowing money, everyone's growing their business, et cetera. The problem is that you get inflation. As you guys know, you can't keep monetary policy low for too long. So to control inflation in several countries, they're all raising rates. Also, too, to compete with the dollar, right? As we raise rates in the USA, other countries are like, crap, we better raise rates to defend our currency. But it's a real tricky thing because they don't want to stunt their growth, right? You guys understand this. Also, too, we talked about this. There's a sham election in the Ukraine. They're voting, and people are, quote, voting for 95% want to join Russia, that kind of stuff. It's all a sham. So basically, this is going to give Russia the sort of political propaganda to say, hey, this is now officially part of Russia, these parts of Ukraine, and if you attack there, you're declaring full war, and we can use all of our weapons at our disposal. So we'll see how this goes. The regular Russian people, though, many of them are making a run to the border because they don't want to fight in Putin's war. And we're seeing here reports of 10,000 people a day. You can see this. And I feel for the Russian people. And I'm on their side. I don't want anyone to be fighting anywhere, right? I want to make that really clear. I don't want anyone fighting anywhere. I don't want Ukrainians to be fighting. I don't want Russians to be fighting. I don't want Americans to be fighting. I don't want anyone to be fighting anywhere. And, I respect the Russians that, you know what? I'm not fighting Putin's war. I'm making a run the border because it's just not worth it. And I don't want to be forced to fight in that war. So I think that is a real thing, and we're going to keep track of this. You can see this. I mean, this is satellite imagery. You can see this is the border between Russia and Georgia, where the traffic is, the lines are packed. The Russians are actually sending basically security to the border to give people draft notices at the border. So I mean, this is not a good situation. And also, too, I don't even know how that would work to where like forcing someone to join and then forcing someone to fight. I mean, yes, I get the idea that you fight or we shoot you kind of thing, but I don't really know if Russians would do that to each other. I just don't know. And it's a crazy idea to just like force someone to fight. I mean, I guess the situation's going to be, and I'm just keeping it real, is like, I guess you just throw them into the war zone, and then if the Ukrainians are shooting at you, you got no choice but to defend yourself. But I mean, I don't know. I think the other option would be, if there's comes a solution where like, Ukrainians are like, hey, if you're forced to fight in Putin's war, just surrender your weapons and you can come to safe harbor political asylum with us. That kind of thing could happen. But regardless, I understand, I don't even want to be in that situation. It's better off just going for the border. And I understand entirely. Also, too, you guys remember people were Googling how to break your leg, how to break your arm to try to get out of it. The other thing is, too, as I told you guys last year, if you've been following the channel, defense stocks were good because it wasn't hard to see, right? All the defense contractors essentially were sending weapons to Ukraine, right? And it looks like they're running out because the war keeps going long. So I imagine they're still going to make money on this thing. The other thing, too, is I'm calling it now. I started mentioning it to you the last couple of days because, I don't know how long the war is going to go. I don't know. But eventually it's going to end, and any kind of company that is part of the reconstruction of Ukraine will benefit. I've seen it before. We'll see it again, I promise you. So these are the kind of things that's just the reality of the world. And so one of the things that one of my professors taught me back at Penn a long time ago was if you want to know how the world works, Wall Street controls it and the military, and it's a real thing. So something I tell you guys that I'm not making up random stuff. This is who are going to benefit from this stuff. The other thing is too is the UK with their tax cuts is like the greatest in 50 years. They're not getting any faith from anyone. The markets doesn't like it. And Moody's doesn't like it. They're like, say, this is terrible. Your economy is in shambles. And one of the things, the problem is the UK. So here in USA we complain, or in the USA we complain about 8% inflation, something like that, 9%, 8, 9. In UK you're like dealing with like around 10%. It's like pretty crazy. And so what do? You got to get this under control. And this is a quote from Moody's. This is what they're saying here. They're saying large and unfunded tax cuts are credit negative, right? So bad. Lead to structurally higher deficits amid rising borrowing costs, right? So you're spending more than you're taking in, and the cost to borrow money is going up. Plus, this is what they say, a weaker growth outlook and acute public spending pressure stemming from the pandemic and a decade of austerity. So it's just the tax cuts, no one believes is going to work. Truss came in and she's like, hey, everyone, vote for us and we're going to turn everything around. But I don't know. It's just the markets don't like it. So the UK pound sterling is just sinking right now. So you have that. You also have the Chinese yuan sinking, and you also have the Japanese yen sinking. So I can tell you also too, in Korea the won is not holding. It's holding better than other currencies, but not as good. It's holding better. It's holding better than other currencies, but still it's not as good as the dollar. The other thing is too is IMF is saying that as well. Good. The UK is trying to make people feel better, but no one's having it. The other thing is too is in the USA, I'm sure you guys know, we talked about this before, is people actually are evacuating because of that new hurricane thing, Hurricane Ian. We'll see if it ends up being serious. I think it could be a 2-day thing, so the governor DeSantis is starting to recommend it. And I have some friends in Florida, and some people wrote in the comments as well. that this could be serious. So do be safe, please. And also, too, if you have any family or friends, you can comment how they're doing and this kind of thing. It's always good to share information about this stuff. And we also talked about yesterday that price of orange juice is going to be going up, et cetera. So, you just want to understand the impact of these things, not just, obviously we talk about people's lives, but just the economic things. And, you can take a look at this. In Cuba, they've already lost power. Which is, I'm sure you guys know in the world that we live in, power is really important. Your air conditioning, your electricity, et cetera. Charging, your refrigerator, keep food cold. We need these things. And you can see that this is a picture from Batabano. They're already, I can't tell how much it is. I'd guess that might be like 1.5 to 2 feet of water, something in that. I mean, you guys can see yourself. It's up to your basically your knees. And it's horrible. It's a water damage is really, really serious, actually. And we'll see what happens with this thing. So do be safe if you're there. And there was a thing I saw recently too, is as people were boarding up the stuff, that UPS was still working, actually delivering packages, which is kind of crazy. But I think they probably stalled it. And I think Disney's closed there, and I think many things are closing down so people can get away. Also, too, regarding what's happening in the USA, this is a larger company thing where GM's like, "Hey, everyone, come back to the office, come back to work," and their employees are like, "No way, screw you, I'm not coming back." And so then the company's like, "Okay, fine, we're going to rechange our policy." But I think this is something you're going to see a lot, and there's a couple things that I think this represents. One is when you give employees kind of benefits, basically, hey, you can work from home and it's great to work from home. They're gonna take it and they're gonna like it, and it's hard to change that. Same way when you give workers and people a bunch of free money or raises, it's gonna stay that way. So the way the world has changed, it's going to be hard to go back, right? We are in a Zoom world, and it's going to continue because people don't want to go back to work, back to the office, that is. I do think that people do see some benefit to going in person, but I just don't think it's going to be 5 days a week kind of thing. And some people maybe don't want to do it at all, which I completely understand. Sometimes work, if you guys ever work in an office job, just feels like most of your day is just wasted by a whole bunch of meetings in person, where you listen to your boss say stuff that they could have just sent you an email. That is a job. It's a joke, but I'm sure you know the truth in that. Also, too, someone asked me about Boeing the other day, and Boeing's an interesting one. It's funny because I always see that Boeing is getting deals, and they're always like trying to get deals in China and different countries as well. I don't know what to make of Boeing, to be very frank. Their books don't look so great. They're not profitable, the last I checked. But with the reopening, there could be a ton of business for them. We saw the casino stocks and stuff like that made a run because we got some good news from Macau. So Boeing's an interesting one. I'm not sure. I'm not sure what to make of Boeing, guys. It hit the lows. I think I won $100 because I said someone asked me about this one. I think the pros for Boeing would be there's going to be a ton of travel, if you believe in that. And we do see that there has been demand for travel. So like Japan officially said, hey, we're opening, and like ticket sales went through the roof for touring in Japan. Hong Kong said they started to reopen a bit, and I saw like the price for tickets from LA to Hong Kong were really expensive. It was like some crazy number for business class. It was like 13 grand. So there's going to be need for that stuff, but we also have staffing shortages. So it's not just plane shortages. We have pilot shortages and flight attendant shortages. So Boeing's an interesting one. I'm not saying good or bad. I'm just saying it's an interesting one. But I always see news that they're making deals. I think it's one of those companies that the USA the government would always bail out. I think it's like a Ford or something, or a GM or something like that. I think it's poorly run, but the government bails them out. That's America. It's a joke, but if you guys understand what I'm talking about, I'm not just making random stuff up. If you haven't seen this movie, I mention it from time to time. Do see this movie. It's called Margin Call. This exposes the corruption of Wall Street. It was not a popular movie. The more popular movie was The Big Short, but I do recommend to see this if you haven't seen it. And the reason why I bring this up is that there was essentially fines handed out. Was it 1.8 billion? So like quite a bit. Over the banks messaging over WhatsApp, and they were using a different app. I can't remember what it was called. It's called sorry guys, I don't remember. It's the one with the little circle, blue circle. If you can write in the comments what it is, it's like WhatsApp and another one. But basically the idea is that when you're doing some communications, you should be doing it through official, bank channels, so that the record of things. And I guess a lot of people weren't, especially like Bank of America, Barclays, Citigroup. They're all doing it. They're all doing WhatsApp when they're not supposed to of official company business. So the way these things work, you pay the fine and you move on. So I'm sure they're going to continue to do it. They just pay the fine and move on. The other thing, the last thing, which I think should be a good story. So in Iran, as you guys know, and I mean good and bad, but obviously the bad thing is the morality police was basically killed a woman in captivity, or they said your jeans are too tight, and then they arrested her, and then she ultimately killed. And the Iran morality police started cracking down on the people and even celebrities. But as it turns out, there were multiple people who were part of the morality police who were actually killed as well, because the college students and young people, rich and poor, which is important, started rising up and resisting. And we may see some real change in Iran. This is something that I just think is universal around the world, is humans want to have certain rights of freedom, be it to wear what you want, say what you want, think what you want. I think that's fundamental to human freedom. And some countries, they don't necessarily have these kind of things. But I don't think it's a crazy thing. But, from a Western perspective, right, I grew up in the USA. I think these are fundamental to human freedom, is to be able to think what you want, say what you want, where you want, that kind of stuff. We may see some change in Iran. We'll see. And this was an interesting quote. I'll just read this to you. This is from someone in parliament, so someone more like wants to reform the government. So this is the quote. Religious beliefs are not created by batons, arrests, and guidance patrol. We cannot force people into paradise. And last was as if one can decide about paradise and hell with money. Basically, like, if you don't do this, we'll fine you. If you do this, we'll reward you, kind of thing. But I just think that's a really fascinating way to think about what's going on around you. Religious beliefs are not created by batons, arrests, and guidance patrol, meaning that you can't legislate what people believe. People have a right to believe whatever they want. And I hope this is a change around the world, to where we don't have, like, essentially, just be real, a minority of religious zealots sort of imposing their religious beliefs on the rest of the population. People have a right to believe whatever they want. And I think that's an important thing in a fundamental human rights. So that's what I believe. Humans have a right to believe whatever they want. And so, this idea that minorities forcing other people, I think is a bad thing. And so we'll see if there's real change in Iran. So that's a positive note for the day. As of yet, it seems like there might be. So we'll see. So anyway, so that's the news for the day. Hopefully all these things were helpful for you. Love to hear your thoughts on anything that we talked about. And this has been your daily Uncut News.